So about 2.5 years ago, I did a video when we were in the outback about how I planned for a long day's drive with access to only AC slow charging. And here we are in Turkey, and I'm going to do a similar video where I do a planning for a long journey. But this time we're doing a Cannonball Run from Turkey to the UK. And the reason why we're doing that is because we need to get through the UK in the least number of days possible because of our visa requirements. So we're trying to do it in 6 days of driving and hopefully one rest day in the middle. So I wanted to show you the planning that we do for that kind of trip versus a trip in the outback. Now, obviously, the charging here is a lot more, I'm going to use that word, pervasive. I've said it a few times in my videos. So it's not going to be so hard in terms of charging, but just in terms of getting, that kind of distance over 6 days in our EV is going to be interesting. So let me get up a better route planner here. For vehicle, obviously it's KRU, and the reference consumption that we're using is 183 watt hours per kilometre. When we're in Scandinavia, it's a lot higher than that, about 200, but I think that will do for this trip. It's not overly warm, even here in Turkey actually. It's been a bit cool recently. But we'll stick with 183. So I've added 3 charge cards, so this will help with the route planning, and I've got my Tesla subscription, the Octopus Electroverse, which is I found very useful in all of Europe, except for Turkey actually. It's not available here. And then Trugo, so that's the network that I signed up for here in Turkey. And I can show you, there'll be a separate video posted about how I struggled to get that app working. So charging networks, we've got Tesla's preferred, but there's plenty of others that I could use too. I think that's it for settings. All right, let's get on to the route itself. So I'll put in Bracknell, which is where we got family in the UK. And our current position is down here. We're in Ayvalik, I think it's called, which is in sort of south of Turkey, not too far from Gallipoli. All right, so we'll put Bracknell in as a destination. We've got 99% state of charge. So it's always important on long journeys to start off with on a good foot and have, or start off on the right foot and have a full charge. So a better route planner, if it's got the right inputs, does a pretty good job of planning for you. Let's see what we get. Computing, thinking, adjusting. Meanwhile, we can have a look at the cats going by, and it's pretty rare actually that I've seen EVs here in Turkey, but we've got a EV3 that's pulled up right behind us here, which is nice to see. All right, so that trip is, if we did it driving constantly, it would be 1 day and 20 hours, 3,180 kilometers, 16 stops, 614 kilowatt hours, plenty of tolls, and 54 minutes of ferries as well. But I think we'll be using that ferry. Oh yeah, the ferry would be across the channel, of course. There would have been a ferry or bridge across the Bosphorus Strait, but these days there's a new bridge that opened a couple of years ago, so we'll use that. Yeah, so the first 2 stops in Turkey, we'll definitely use the Tesla network, I think. I already have the subscription. And then we'll be heading into Bulgaria. And you can see the typical charging curve, well, not charging curve, but we arrive at the 10% and then we leave with between 50 and 70%, maybe 80. My car really slows down its charging rate when it gets above 80%, so it's not worth doing when you're wanting to charge and go. Then we go into Serbia and then Croatia, and then we're back on the Tesla network for a while. Zagreb, more Tesla through Germany. Plenty of that in Germany, and then a supercharger at the Eurotunnel in France, and then the Eurotunnel itself, and then back to the UK. So that's the plan. You can see the map there. It's pretty full on. So what I'll do is we'll just do updates, hopefully during the trip, and at the end I'll give you an idea of charging cost and how we went and stuck to our plan. So 6 days of driving, 1 rest day. And we'll hopefully get there in just under a week.
So cute.
Big jet. So about 290 k's in, this is our first charging stop. We
In 600 meters, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Tekodag Ipsala Yolu, D110.
Got about 17% charge in the battery. So we're going to do Tesla here, which is pretty easy for us to do. We have a membership in Australian dollars, and you can use it pretty much anywhere in the world. But for everywhere else we've been in Europe, I've been using the Octopus Electroverse card, so they have network roaming enabled, which is really good, and I've had great success with that.
Exit the roundabout onto Tekodag Ipsala Yolu.
Yeah, about
in 600 meters,
95%
right.
of the charging is either covered by Tesla or Electroverse. But that roaming stops for Electroverse stops in Turkey. So I could use Tesla, but then there's a few of them, probably more populated areas. Down where we were, there wasn't any down there. Yeah, so I had to sign up for a Turkish app, and that was really hard.
Turn right, then turn right.
Long story short, I got the app installed, but the only way I could get it to activate and authorize me was through a Turkish SIM. So I had to buy a Turkish SIM, and that then allowed me to get an SMS, and that was the only thing I used that SIM for.
Your destination is on the left.
Even though it cost me $50 to to get the monthly service. I only ever used it for one SMS. There's probably a better way, but anyway, that's what that was like. So yeah, we'll use these Tesla chargers. I think I've approached them from the wrong side, but because our car has the charger in the front, that works for us. All right, on to the next one. This is our second charging stop. We're at 405 kilometers so far. Our reference consumption is 184 watt hours per kilometer, which is bang on what a better route planner has. Yeah, so I think we're approaching a Tesla charger here.
In 400 meters, turn right onto
I wanted to talk about the
2021
EV scene in Turkey. We were down in the southeast, sort of away from the major populations, and I wasn't seeing that many EVs on the. Actually, sorry, stop. I was reading the other day. I think Turkey is one of the only few countries in Europe, maybe the only one, that doesn't use stop, the letters, stop, word stop, on their stop signs. I mean, at least it is the same
turn
red
right onto 20,021
shape, but
then your destination will be on the left.
Anyway, the EV scene, I wasn't seeing that much evidence of
Tesla sign. I think it must be that one.
Evidence of EVs on the road, and that has. Right. Well, we've got a full charger here. So I guess I'll have to park here for a minute and then see where I am in a queue. Right, so just quickly, the EV scene, wasn't seeing that many EVs on the road, and that's been borne out. I think last year of the total fleet, about 2% were EVs. But it sounds like they've really put a rocket under adoption here. I don't know if they've got incentives going, but Turkey now, in terms of total number of EV sales in 2025, is now the fourth largest market in Europe. Obviously they've got a big population, so they do buy a lot of cars. But it's good to see. So I think now adoption is really going to take off here in Turkey. So they've obviously got all the usual brands. One interesting thing is that they have their own homegrown brand called TOG. So these cars are made in Turkey somewhere. They sort of, I think it's at least one model is an SUV, kind of Model Y-ish. But it sounds like they're doing very well, and the Turks are buying a lot of them. On a Cannonball Run, it's always important to stop for lunch. So this restaurant here by the Tesla chargers I just pulled up to, and just come upstairs, and some fries with truffle and Parmesan cheese and lentil soup.
What you doing, Toaster?
Huh?
What are you doing, Toaster?
Watching my car charge.
What you drinking?
I'm drinking a Turkish black coffee.
Nice.
It's good for long drives, right?
Yeah.
And I won't have to go to the toilet too much. It's only a small amount of liquid.
In 200 meters, continue straight to stay on E80.
Republic of Bulgaria.
We're being sprayed with the underneath of the car's being sprayed with something.
Wow, that's wild.
Maybe it's foot and mouth disease. Who knows?
That's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Oh, don't bring your cat.
Okay. Oh, that's.
Continue straight to stay on E80.
Maybe if there's a cat hanging out underneath the car, it's like, don't like this. What do you reckon?
Well, it's like we were saying, like it's kind of the minute you leave the EU, there's strays everywhere.
Yeah. All right, looks like we could be in this queue for a bit. All right, so we're fully 10 k's from the border, and the trucks are still lined up going in the other direction to Turkey. We didn't get off lightly either, but we didn't have to wait as long as these truckers. We were in that line on the Bulgarian side for an hour. I think that new EES system is definitely slowing things down. We both had to get out of the car and do a facial recognition thing, but it wasn't, that bit was pretty easy. But yeah, so we're now in Bulgaria. So the final stop tonight is Plovdiv, I think it is, which is in the center of Bulgaria. So we'll have done about 700 k's at that point, so that's a long enough day. We have gained an hour back just crossing the border there, but that will be enough for us, so we should get there at about 5 o'clock. All right, well, we might catch you tomorrow on day 2. Over and out.
Start over. Okay, we are live.
Okay, morning. So this is Plovdiv, I think it is, in the middle of Bulgaria. So day 2, and we got a fairly ambitious day, 620 k's to Serbia. We're going to try and hit our old haunt, Novi Sad. So we got a couple of charging stops in Serbia, according to Better Route Planner, and I think the journey time's about 8 hours. So we'll see how that pans out. The chargers that a Better Route Planner has picked for me, one of them doesn't appear to be on my Electroverse charging network, so it would be interesting to see how that turns out. There are some Tesla chargers in Serbia, but I don't have access to those because they're not available to third-party cars. Yesterday, so we kind of ended with us being on the Turkish-Bulgarian border for over an hour, and the EES system maybe is contributing to that. We certainly had to get out of our car and do a facial scan, and I was actually able to see the terminal that the border guard was using, and they had a picture of me when I'd crossed the border previously, so they were comparing the shots, I guess, to make sure it's the same dude crossing. So that was interesting, but yeah, it took us an hour to get through. So we didn't get quite as far as we wanted to yesterday, but we spent a nice night here in Plovdiv. We just stayed at the Holiday Inn just back there. And I always try to pick accommodation where we can charge overnight. So a Better Route Planner would typically have us arriving at our destination with 10%. And then we just plug in overnight. So that's obviously a great use of charging time, is just to be sleeping. So they had an AC charger there right at the front door actually, which was very useful for parking. I think parking around where we were staying might have been a bit tricky. So for €11, I guess it was flat, we were able to charge and get a nice full tank this morning, which is good. So we're tracking well so far, and we'll see how the day progresses. So this was the first charger in Serbia that a Better Route Planner directed us to. I did do some research, and I guessed I might have trouble, and I can't actually activate it. I don't seem to have mobile data reception. I think it might be the hills up here. We've been in Serbia recently, and this sim I have is fine, but so I think it's because we're up in the hills. Yeah, so the Electroverse thing wouldn't activate it, and couldn't use the QR code to install anything. What's worse though is that my phone right now, I can't find the next charging stop. So I've reverted to the old mapping system that's built into the car. So we're there. I don't normally use the system, but anyway, it's got some charges on here. And this is that next town, number 4 looks viable. So we'll use the old car's navigation to get there. We'll see how we go. So day 2 wrap up. We're approaching our accommodation near Novi Sad in Serbia. So we've again picked accommodation that
Continue straight onto Route
we can
313.
charge overnight. So we're going to arrive with about, I think, 15% charge, and then charge overnight, and it's included in the accommodation. So that's good. Today went pretty much as planned.
On Route 313 for 7 kilometers.
A better route planner for the 620 kilometers had recommended 2 charging points in Serbia. The first one though, I kind of knew we might struggle there because I couldn't find it on any of the networks that I have a payment card for. And yeah, and when we got there, I wasn't able to use those RFID cards I have, and trying to scan the QR code didn't work, and I didn't have mobile reception, so that didn't help either. So we gave up there and then just traveled 20 k's down the road to a shopping center in Nis and charged there. So yeah, that's an example of always having a bit of buffer and having a plan B. After that though, it was pretty much smooth sailing. Good roads, or good motorway roads in Serbia, so we were able to travel at speed. They had 130 km/h speed limits, so yeah, it was easy going. We also gained an hour. We're traveling westwards, so that helped with our travel time. At the border this morning in between Bulgaria and Serbia, we had to leave Schengen, the European sort of visa system, so they took our photos again, but there was no queue today, so that was pretty quick. And then entering Serbia was fine. The customs lady did want to see our car paperwork, even though we'd actually given it to the border guard, and she was confused about the licensing of the car and when it would expire. But anyway, she went and talked to a colleague and then let us through. But yeah, there's the kind of paperwork that we pretty much have to show whenever we're leaving either the Schengen area or entering or coming into countries like Serbia. Yeah, so smooth day 2, and we'll see what day 3 has in store. Cheers. So day 3, after a full charge at our accommodation near Novi Sad in Serbia, we've got an ambitious day today. We've got 660 kilometers, about 8.5 hours of driving, and we're here about to hit the border. So we've got 4 countries we're going through today, but we're hitting the border here into Croatia, and we're 10 k's from the border, and there's already trucks lining up. It's just crazy. Like the Turkish border crossing was the same, from Bulgaria into Serbia, the same. These poor truckies. Actually, is it 10 k's? Maybe it's not 10 k's, because I can see the border coming up now. Yeah, so maybe this one's not as bad. But yeah, on some of the other crossings there have been long lineups of trucks. Anyway, so exiting Serbia shortly, and then entering Schengen again, so we probably have to do the whole EES entry-exit system, photo, yada yada yada. Alright, we'll see how we go.
Paying the toll. Is this paying the toll?
Yes, so this is actually not the border. This is just paying the toll for the Serbian motorway. So yeah, we are still at least 7 k's from the border. So those trucks were probably lined up at least 10 k's, which is crazy. It must have them queue up on a different side road.
Yeah, there was like a, did you see that little kind of clover leafy thing that was going off?
Yeah. So you collect a ticket at one end and then it's a manual payment at the other. Luckily they take credit cards because we don't have any Serbian dinar, do we?
No, we don't. Dobar dan. Hvala.
Thank you. Another petrol station. I was just saying before that there seems to be a lot of them in the lead up to the border here, and I'm guessing maybe the petrol's cheaper on the Serbian side, and so people are filling up 188 dinar per litre. So this is with the impacts of the war that's going on at the moment.
Day 25 as of this recording.
There you go. All right, well, we'll check in later. We'll tell you how we went through the border.
In 600 meters, turn right.
So this is our first toll in Croatia. So we're coming up to our first charging stop. So we've done 160 k's today. We were going at the speed limit, so 130 kilometers an hour. So watt hours have gone up, but we've got plenty of gas here, so we're at just about 200 watt hours per kilometre. So we'll pay the toll. Looks like it's manual, which is good. And there should be a Tesla Supercharger just beyond here. All right, we'll check in later.
Dobar dan.
Third country, Slovenia, which is where
Continue straight onto A2.
Melania Trump comes from.
Boo.
I think it's
Continue for 34 kilometers.
a small country, population about 2 million, but it has really throws its weight around in terms of car manufacturing. I think the town that's Melania's birthplace is there's quite a few European manufacturers there making cars. Right, so we're 438 kilometers in, doing 191 watt hours. The last charge stop was just on the outskirts of Zagreb. Was unremarkable. We got one more charge stop, and then we're going to spend the night in the middle of Austria somewhere. So this looks like this is vignette I've paid. So Croatia was just pay-as-you-go tolls. Slovenia is vignette. I went online and bought a ticket. You could only buy a week's worth, so it was €20, and we're only going to be in Slovenia for like less than an hour. But there wasn't much choice. All right, I guess. I mean, we've already entered the EU, so there shouldn't be a need to enter it again for feeling. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, see you in the next one.
This truck's having to deal with the border.
Yeah, but it's it's an internal Schengen border, so this is more the refugee check, yada yada yada. All right, final country for the day coming up, Austria, but they don't like dash cams, so we'll be turning this off soon and do a little less filming through the windscreen. So as I predicted in the last segment, yeah, we were only in Slovenia for about half an hour. So here we are just across the border in Austria doing our final charge for the day. We've got about another 120 k's to our destination tonight. But this is a very refreshing charge stop here. I think it's kind of brand new actually, so I guess that's why it's a great setup for both petrol and electric cars. I'll show you around. So obviously we've got the ABB units here, and they're they're 360 kilowatt, except payment and RFID. So I use my Electroverse RFID card to activate. We were getting the maximum charge rate for the Kia, which was 74, but we're dropping down. Anyway, we're going to leave at about 60%, so we're going to leave shortly. But yeah, what else I liked about the setup is you've got water, clean the windshield. You don't have to go over and grab it from the petrol side. And then we've got these strange readers down here. I don't know what they're doing, but there's two of them. Say needing calibrated. There's some level thing in there. I don't know if it's a battery level that's supporting the chargers. I've got no idea. And there's another one over here. This one does have some level in it. Yeah, so I don't know what they're about. But the other cool thing here, and I haven't seen these before, but maybe Europeans have, is this this unit for pumping up the air in your tires. So it's actually a little portable unit. You just take it off this and carry it over to your car, and yeah, fill it up with air. And then I guess it kind of recharges itself by just sitting on that connection. It's very clever. All right, so we've got our vignette for Austria. So we're set for the next couple of days. All right, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Over and out. Morning. So this is day 4. Leisen in the middle of Austria through to Frankfurt today. So we did charge at the accommodation, which is always my preference, but it was pretty slow. And we only got to about 66%. So 5 a.m. here, it's only like 2 degrees, you know, just to make sure we get off to a good start. I've come over to this jet charging station here. Similar setup to the Shell recharge from yesterday, actually. Looks like a brand new setup, ABB units, 400 kilowatt, which is nice, and then the regular servo and shop over there. So we will, this will take about 2 hours. The car really slows down its charging rate once we get to about 80%. So it's going to take 2 hours to go from, I think it's 66% up to 100. So we'll just leave the car here for a couple of hours to stew in its juices, and then we will hit the road. So this is our 5th country on our Cannonball Run. So after crossing the border about an hour ago from Austria into Germany, we have 300 k's into the 600 kilometer leg today. Stopped at the Shell. So yeah, just charging over here. Again, they've taken out some Bowsers, so at least EV drivers can charge under the canopy here. And I guess, you know, there's talk of actually snow around in the mountains around here tomorrow, so especially in the winter, it's good to be undercover, right? What was interesting about this charger was I couldn't find a typical RFID symbol, and I thought, well, maybe I have to use the app, but I was actually able to use this, well, what we would call a payment terminal here to actually use my RFID card from the UK, so that it got the charging session started. All right, well, we got one more charge stop today before we hit Frankfurt, which is going to be our stop for tonight. And then we've got one more push to the UK. So the Cannonball Run continues. So about 150 k's to go to Frankfurt, and nothing much to report this afternoon. We're coming up to our final charging stop. The only thing is, I guess it started raining. I guess this is the precursor to the snow that they're going to get in the higher elevations around here, around these parts tomorrow. Yeah, so unless there's anything else to report,
There's a lane closure ahead.
we will see you the day after tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have a rest day, and then on day 5 we'll do the final push to the Channel and into the UK. Alright, speak to you later. So there is something worth reporting at this charge stop after all. I found this Neo swap station. So the first time I've seen one in the flesh. There was a presentation for them at the Neo showroom that I went to in Stockholm, but it's cool. Yeah, so we're about 150 k's from Frankfurt. This is like a big sort of hub off the motorway. There's chargers over there, but yeah, I guess this guy has just pulled up, and I don't know why he's parked outside. It says it's a 3-minute swap, but he spent more than 3 minutes just sitting there. I don't know what he's waiting for. Maybe he has to do something. But I guess he goes into that garage and the battery gets swapped out pretty quickly. But meanwhile, we're I just got this ristretto from Macca's over there, just to do the final push today. But we're at the Tesla Supercharger here. But when we pulled up, we were the only car. It's like 30 stalls. Oh, it's a bit more action now. But yeah, I don't know if so just a quiet day here, or if pricing's too high. It's one of the bigger Tesla superchargers that I've seen. Oh, here comes another one. All right. I don't know what the Civic's hoping to do. He's anyway, I guess he's going to move on, and right, that should be it for today. We'll catch you on final day. Morning. This is driving day 5. So we've just left Frankfurt, where we had a rest day, and we've got the final big push day today to the UK. So about 620 kilometers. We're going to overnight in Folkestone after we get off the Eurotunnel, and then do the final, it's really just a few hours drive into Bracknell, which is just out west London. So that will be our destination for our Cannonball Run. On our rest day yesterday, I actually popped into the local BMW dealership and got to kick the tires on the new iX3, which looks very nice. I think if you like BMW styling, it looked really nice to me. There's plenty going on inside with the new panoramic screen, but I'm not sure if it's the car for us. We will be in the market for a new EV when we get back to Australia next year. But yes, I'm not too sure if it's for us, but it certainly looks like a nice car, and there seems to be plenty of interest for it. All right, well, we'll keep driving, and we'll send you updates later on. So our first charging stop for the day is down over there somewhere. But yeah, one thing worth noting is I've been caught out a couple of times now. You know, it's probably just me being asleep at the wheel around parking places that now do number plate recognition, especially when there's no boom gates, and you know, it's not somewhere that you're used to. Maybe the signage is in a foreign language, but anyway, this is one of those places, so you definitely have to watch out for them. In the UK, I got caught out a couple of times and ended up with 2 £100 fines, which you don't see until they send them to you in the mail. Interesting how you do Y's on this keyboard. but I should be all right because I have the first 90 minutes here is free. But yeah, so I got two parking fines in the UK of £100 each. Ouch. But you know, my mistake. Need to be more careful, right? Anyway, word of warning to you guys too. So this is the second charge for the day at Le Shuttle. So we're just waiting for our train to get across to the UK. Nothing really interesting to report other than these Teslas behind me here. They got CCTV, mobile CCTV units. They kind of look like, you know, what Google Street View would use or something or whatever. Anyway, there's two of them here. They're both UK regs. I guess they're also heading across, but yeah, I wonder what they're about. All right, well, we'll hang here. Nice weather to welcome us here at the Channel Tunnel. All right, we'll just hang here, get a coffee, and we'll see you later.
Take the Tunnel Sulamanchi train. In 400 meters, slight left.
Are you making a movie?
Yeah. Are you making a movie? Yeah. Nice. Drive on a train.
Never tried it.
You never tried it?
It's the kind of thing my husband does.
Slight left, then turn left.
Good morning. Driving day 6. And we have Keiru back in its natural habitat. So we're driving on the left, and I had to change the car from kilometers per hour and kilometers to miles per hour. So we're driving at the speed limit here on the M20 heading towards London and Bracknell. I think it's time to wrap up this 11 country, 3,200 kilometer plus some miles, I guess, here at the end, journey back to the UK from Turkey. It's been quite a journey. We did it fairly quickly. We had a couple of reasons. One was family reasons, and the other was we do play this game with visas while we're in Europe, and one of them is the Schengen rule, which is where you can only spend 90 days out of 180 in Europe proper. So we just wanted to make sure that we transited fairly quickly and didn't use up our precious days. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of give you a summary. So here on screen here you can see some of the stats from the journey. We total cost for charging and tolls and ferries was just over 1,000 Australian dollars, or about 600 plus euro. Country with the lowest charging cost per kilowatt hour would have to be
would have to be Turkey. It was very cheap. On the other end of the scale would be Serbia, with rate, I think there on screen is about 137 or so euro per kilowatt hour, which is very expensive. Now we probably could have seeked out cheaper rates if we'd used the local network apps, but we were just roaming on my UK Octopus Energy RFID card, and so I think there you just get charged the highest rate possible. But yeah, I use that card. Other than Tesla, I use that the whole time. So relatively speaking, Serbia does have the highest rates on our journey, at least. The crossing the channel was a third of all of our costs, travel costs. We came across sort of at peak time yesterday afternoon. I think if we had gone at a different time of day, or I guess taken the ferry rather than the train, we probably could have saved some money there. But yeah, so it ended up a fair chunk of the overall costs. But you know, I think some countries on the chart there you can see, like Slovenia. While we only spent 60 kilometers in Slovenia, we had to buy a week vignette at about 20 euros. So if you do that, cost per kilometer was pretty high. But other than that, I think there's no other standouts. So all in all, a terrific journey. I hope you enjoyed all of the vision and insights along the way, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers.